everyone. This is Alex, Tom's oldest daughter from Two Dads Talking. Thanks for listening to my daddy and his friend Doug's podcast. And please like, share, and subscribe to this. Thank you.
Welcome, everybody, to Two Dads Talking. We're happy to have you back as we ramble on about all the stuff. We're talking about gas tonight. Woo! Who's excited?
I don't know, but I really hope there's not a dad fail after talking about fiddling with gas stoves.
We've got a fun one tonight.
Oh my God, I hope so. I was nothing personal, Tom, but most of the time I'm not like, I wouldn't say I'm looking forward to the episodes. Like, it's nice. You're a nice guy, I guess, except when you yell at me about Alabama IVF. But like, I was sitting there yesterday like, oh man, I can't wait to talk about this. For some reason, I'm just like really amped up about this. So I hope I'm not building this up too much in my head. I just feel like I'm just gonna go off on this one somewhere.
There's a problem with this. I think we've got some hype bias going on because the last two episodes that we've released as of the time that we're recording this are two fairly polarizing episodes. They were What is a Woman Answered, which is the first episode that ever got me hate mail and hate messages. And that was an experience. And then we followed that one up with the discussion on Alabama's ruling on IVF. And I'm not going to say I'm getting the same kind of messages, but I am getting some messages and some discourse, even though it's only been out for a day. And it's interesting. So we're riled up because we've released our two most inflammatory episodes, I guess you might say. And tonight we're recording another one. So we're going to have a couple of more benign episodes in between those and this one. But tonight we picked a topic that has got me a little fired up already. And even though my response is probably pretty predictable, it still should be colorful and entertaining. But yeah, we decided to just keep pushing this issue and keep going with the polarizing topics because what the hell? Why not?
That's more fun that way. I hope at least one of your emails said, "Oh, I'm sorry. You're not the ultra conservative. My mistake."
None of them.
I mean, if there was ever any doubt, I feel like the Alabama IVF removed it for any selfers.
I think the people who took away my ultra conservatism from the first one probably didn't bother listening to that one. Actually, they probably didn't listen to the first one. So
yeah, probably not. You're right. Oh well, I'll send you one. I'll create an email account just for you. So sorry, Tom.
Thank you. I appreciate that.
This is the guy listening from unknown land.
I'm getting sympathy emails from my co-host now. That's the sad state of this. That's how fragile I've become.
Right. In hindsight, that was the beginning of the end. All right, let's get into it.
So the current topic as we record this, raging on social media and in every social circle apparently that I exist in, except my household, because my wife hadn't heard about this when I first mentioned it to her, is the bear versus man question. And not the TV show, not that, that thing. But the question is, and I may get this a little wrong, but I think I've got the ballpark paraphrasing right. If your daughter was walking alone in the woods, would you rather she encounter a random unknown man or a random bear? And women have been chiming in on this, and they've been, putting themselves in apparently their daughter's shoes for reasons I get. And this has been the question that has been blowing up and dominating all of my social channels. And I can't not see it. Anywhere I look, it's there now. And I'm seeing all the memes and I'm seeing all the cartoons. And hopefully my buddy Kelsey does the picture that I'm trying to commission him to do. I'll be super excited if that comes out, and even more excited if it comes out in time to include it with this episode.
Is this Travis Kelsey, the guy you own?
No, I forgot that I owned him. I think they just extended him 2 years. I forgot that's valuable stock right there.
Right.
I wonder if I can continue to own him until he marries Taylor Swift, and then I could sell him at like his peak value.
Maybe. I don't think so.
I should probably sell him first. Yeah, because if they break up, he's going to tank. Yeah, that's no good. All right. Anyway, so we're talking about bear versus man. Essentially, the question is, Oh gosh, Doug, go ahead and tell me what the question is, because I've been told I have this wrong. And before I go ahead and say what's wrong, let's let the sensible person go ahead and tell me what the question is.
Oh shit! Hold on, let me go find one real quick. Be right back. Well, so I'm interpreting this as I didn't realize a daughter was involved here. I think it was just a generic like you're a woman, you're walking alone in the woods, who you rather encounter.
Well, perfect. That feeds into one of my main points about this. I'm glad that's your point of view. Okay.
I mean that's right because we got it all wrong probably. I mean I think that's just it. Is that would you feel safer if you encounter a bear or if you encounter just a man? Just and I, there's no stipulations on this. It's not like 5'2" UFC featherweight man or 6'4", 300-pound guy. It's just whatever you picture a man to be. And the gist that I'm gathering is the people really pushing this are saying they would rather encounter a bear because the man is more dangerous slash the man is more evil, is I think what people are getting at. The man is more likely to take advantage of you, either sexual assault or rob you or ransom you or do all these other, I think in a way emotionally traumatizing things to you. Whereas the only thing a bear can actually do is just kill you. And that's somehow not as emotionally traumatizing. And I think this is what I'm gathering is that women are bringing this up as what they think is sort of like a gotcha to the toxic masculinity out there of, hey, we think you guys suck so much that we would rather encounter an animal that's likely to kill us than you. And that's the gist that I've gotten from it.
Okay. I was curious to see how you would take this because we really didn't talk about this much before we recorded. It literally came up and what should we talk about this week? And this was kind of the thing that I was screaming, I want to talk about this. And poor Doug was like, well, I don't know what that is, but let's do it. You seem interested and excited. And I like when Tom gets excited because he says stupid things and shows personality and we get downloads. So here's me with my stupid opinionated point of view. This question is actually a fantastic question. It is actually a great question to make.
It's the stupidest question ever.
It is the stupidest question ever, but stupid questions can be good for making you think. And when you stop and you think about this question as it's not about, is a bear a more dangerous predator than a human male? That's not what it's about. It's really about what kind of dangers do women face in day-to-day society because they're women and we're men, and they're physically disadvantaged when it comes to size. And a lot of times when it comes to other cultural, status that we have, what kind of dangers and threats do women really experience on a daily basis from men? And that is such a legitimate question, especially if you have daughters. It's something to really think about. I think it was 1 in 5 women are raped in their lifetime. When I saw that number, I was stunned. I didn't think
They throw that number around, but it was actually based on one survey like forever ago, and they extrapolated it out from So that's not an actual. That wasn't even a multi-regional thing. I think they take that number from, but people run with it because it's a good number.
Sure, yeah, and it was the first one that I saw, and I saw it multiple times, so apparently it did get run with.
I'm sorry, I don't mean to like shit on it, but I mean, I think part of what was I don't think they said rape. I think they said sexual assault, and they included in the definition of sexual assault.
Said rape.
Oh, it did say
rape. It was like 18 point some odd percent of women have been raped in their lifetime, and it was very specific about the definition. And then it listed sexual assault beneath that with a different number.
Okay, well then I can't speak to that one. I was speaking to the one that said 1 in 4 women are sexually assaulted, and it turns out they just included sort of literally catcalling.
Oh, okay.
Like have my babies was like
considered sexual assault.
Was considered. Well, I mean, it's not 0% sexual assault, I guess.
Well, it's not appropriate, right? Like it's not the correct way to act. But I feel like sexual assault should have a different definition than
than catcalling.
Yeah. Okay, yeah. But I think in that regard, you're good. You're good. I think it's a good question because it really, the obvious knee-jerk reaction, if you're thinking about this in literal safety terms, is that you are probably in more danger with a predator that outweighs you 3.5 times to 1 in its environment than you are a man. But the logical next step, if you're going to take it a step further, think about it as well, men are physically bigger than women as well. Men establish, there are predatory behaviors amongst men toward women all the time that we see in the media that happen in real life. Women are more often the victims of domestic abuse than men. And it does happen both ways. As a police officer, obviously, I've seen both. And some of the worst ones I've seen were women on men. But men are more likely to domestically abuse a woman, to sexually assault a woman. Pretty much all the metrics, you are more likely, if you are a woman, to be attacked by a man than you are, if you're a man, to be attacked by a woman. And that in this question is a truly interesting, really fascinating sort of critique on society that maybe we gloss over a little bit. Like, why haven't we fixed this yet? All the things that we have fixed in society, why is this still a problem? Why haven't we corrected that? But that's not what this question is anymore. That's how this question started. And it was interesting. To Doug's point, he didn't even know that the original question was, your daughter is walking in the woods. The original question was meant to apply for men and women to think about and to say, man, if my kid is walking in the woods, completely defenseless, this is the absolute definition of defenseless. What is safer for my child? And it was meant to be asked in a way that men and women would both think about this introspectively. And what women have done on social media is they have taken this question, and now it's, if I was in the woods, and it's basically turned into an exercise to see who can do the best job vilifying men and making asinine, ridiculous, speaking out of their ass statements for laughs and likes. That's what this has become. You took a really interesting topic, women, a really interesting subject worthy of discussion, and you turned it into a
made it about yourselves.
Yes, you made it all about yourselves. You know what? The bear wants nothing to do with you anymore. The bear is like, screw you. I'm out of here. Where's Piglet? And it's leaving. It wants nothing to do with you because you have screwed this up. You took something that was genuinely worth talking about and you made it not only about yourselves, but you just needed this opportunity to dump on men in some of the most ludicrous and ridiculous ways I've heard in a long time. And I've got to say, being a man who's been around the last 20 years, I've seen some ridiculous ways to dump on men. This one kind of takes the cake. It really does. And I'm sorry, girls, I'm not on your side on this one. Y'all messed this up. You went stupid. This is ridiculous. You've taken this to just a point. It's about bullying now. You are now bullying men. And not only are you bullying men, you finally have this bit of power because, like I said, I understand that physically you are smaller than us. And I understand that you live in a society that for most of its history has been very patriarchal and is taking steps forward now, but is still pretty much entrenched and trying to leave that state of patriarchy. I get that it's hard and that there are still cultural norms that suck for you. I understand all of that, but you guys are being stupid. And I don't mean that in the, I don't even know how to say this. I am so irritated about this topic. It's not about the threat of bears. It's about what women have to face. I get that. But what you guys have done is you have taken this and you have said that any man who doesn't automatically agree that he's more dangerous than a bear must be guilty of being more dangerous than a bear. If we're upset about this at all, then clearly we're the guys that are there to be, worried about. And it's that it's an indictment of men that they're supposed to accept and that we're supposed to just swallow this pill and say, yeah, I'm worse than an animal. It's going to mindlessly kill you. The average man is not more dangerous to a woman than the average bear. This is simply not the case. And some of the most asinine points I've seen on this are the Facebook posts that talk about how many women are attacked by bears every year versus how many women are attacked by men. And the fact that I have intelligent friends, actually smart, critically thinking friends who are posting that nonsense on their website. Yeah, I get it. 7 women were killed by bears in the last year. Yeah, that's a very low number compared to the number of women who were killed or attacked by men. How many women were killed by tiger sharks? It's probably less than 7, right? Does that mean tiger sharks are safer than men, ladies? Does that mean you'd rather jump in the ocean with tiger sharks? Just swimming in chum? This is stupid. You don't encounter bears. And if you really did encounter a bear, you would probably shit yourself because you know what? I'm a big guy and I've done some awful scary stuff in my life and I've come through the other side. And if I see, let's say, a grizzly, because that's just one of the more common predatory bears that we know, I am going to poop myself faster than Winnie the Pooh can get his head out of the honey pot to come save me. I want nothing to do. I've seen videos of bear attacks. My wife, not too long ago, has gotten into camping. She really wants to go camping more with the kids and said something to the tune of, I said something about bears. And she said, no, we're camping. There are no bears in campsites. And I went, I'm sorry. She goes, no, we're going to go to like real campsites. There's not going to be bears. And I'm like, honey, let's look at some YouTube videos. And we pulled up some YouTube videos. And there was one of a bear climbing a tree to get at these two people that were in a high hide. That still haunts me weeks later. Can't get it out of my head. The whole conversation is just asinine. It is ridiculous. And I'm all for women's rights, and I'm all for leaving behind the stupid, ridiculous things that we have. I'm that guy who was showing up and breaking up the domestic fights. I was that guy who was showing up at your house when your guy was an a-hole, and I was putting my life on the line to pry him out of the house and fight him into handcuffs and drag him away. I was that guy when there were domestics at the neighbors' houses. I was sticking my nose in that business to break up those domestics and protect the women. And in one case, a guy who his partner was, drunk and beating the crap out of him. I'm that guy who has put his ass on the line to protect women. And so for me to see posts that say things like, when I die, leave my body in the woods because the wolves will be gentler than any man. No, this is just about you hating men. This is no longer about a really interesting question. This is about you really despising men and hating men and needing to feel like you're better than them. And I don't want my daughters to see this crap and grow up thinking it's true. I don't want this to cause relationship problems with my daughters or my son, who grows up wondering, why do women think I'm a dangerous predator? I'm a sweet kid. I cry when I watch Blue with my dad. I'm a terrible, evil person. This is the message that you're sending to boys and girls alike. This is actually going to be very harmful if it keeps up. This is stupid. It's just so dumb. And I get that, most physical and sexual predators are men. I get that. I get that most people who commit violent crimes in jail are men. I get that. But most men are not physical or sexual predators. It doesn't work both ways. And the fact that women are just equating all men, or quote, any man, to more harmful than a predator in its environment is staggeringly stupid to me. And it hurts even more because I do think the original question is a good, interesting philosophical question.
My goodness. Good thing we're not trying to limit this to like 20 minutes an episode, because we'd have to say goodbye now.
I'm going to bed. Good night.
Yeah, right. So, wow, there was a lot to unpack there. So first thing, like we talked about with the AI robots, and pretty much every other time I've offered an opinion on humanity, of course, the original good question got watered down and turned into something that just annoys the pants off of you, because that's what we do as humans. We misuse everything. Had a nice, good question that could apply to anybody, and it got turned into something that was much more vehement and directed. Maybe I should get my jokes out of the way first. So if your son is still crying at Bluey with his father when he's of dating age, I would say that is a red flag, and maybe a bear is safer.
Hey, cricket still makes me cry. That episode, I watched it a couple of days ago with the kids. I cannot not cry when I watch that episode.
But here's the difference. You're now a dad. There's this sweet spot as a male when you're not a small child and you're not even like a crazy hormonal teenager, and you're also not a father, where you do think you're tough as nails and you don't have any other family depending on you, protection or otherwise. And so you get to be kind of callous and tough, and because you don't have as many cares. The only care is about yourself. So the crying at Bluey during dating stage is the one you got to look out for. I'm just saying, if my daughters are like, oh my gosh, Dad, you have to meet like Joe, he's so emotional, I'd be like, get the fuck out of my house right now. I don't trust this dude at all.
See, now you're representing toxic masculinity. That's what it is.
You're damn right I am. I'm extremely toxic. You want to hear the most toxic thing I'm about to say? If you are walking alone in the woods unarmed, that is asking for it. You want to talk about men and like talking about, oh, the way she was dressed, she was asking for it. If you are alone in the woods unarmed, you automatically have to accept the fact that this is a really long-winded way to say this, but growing up, there was a place in the Upper Peninsula of Michigan that we often vacationed to. Very remote. I mean, like, it's not super remote that, like, you can't get help if you really need it, or like, utilities and all that junk. But the closest anything is 4 miles out on the trail towards the main highway, and it's a literally like a bar with a fish fry. And then you have to go another 20 minutes of highway driving speeds to get to the actual like biggest town, where you could actually do real shopping. So it's pretty out there. There's a lot of woods. And just something you learn slash the people who live out there tell you very early is basically, I don't care if it's a squirrel or like a songbird. If a wild animal charges you, you're probably in trouble. You're somewhere you're not supposed to be. We're not even talking about bears. We're just talking about, groundhog. If a groundhog is coming at you, like you need to get out of there. You're somewhere you should not be. just
Does
as a
the
general.
groundhog see its shadow, or
Doesn't matter. It sees yours and it's going to get you. But that's the first thing. So if you're in the woods, and then it's just a thing up there. If there's and this is the part of me that I can't detach because I am sort of a literalist in a lot of ways with the bear question. If we're going to take this hypothetical seriously, and you're walking alone in the woods and your fear is seeing a bear, I think most people don't realize, in addition to not understanding exactly how big and strong bears are, is that bears want nothing to do with people. Pretty much all of them. They want absolutely nothing to do with them. They supposedly can smell you if you're in the woods. They can smell you from like a mile away or a half mile away or something. And people think they can see through the woods. You can't see through the woods. You get like 100 meters any direction, you can't see shit. They could be staring at you and you would never even know. Bears, when they smell people, all the quote healthy ones that aren't diseased or don't cause trouble, they smell you and they go away from you. They just go away. They don't want anything to do with you. That's it. You can see a bear that's not threatening, but usually that's because there's like a cub in tow or another one that doesn't understand that it should just be away from you. So automatically, if you're even seeing a bear walking, not even towards you, like that's already like this bear is already not skeezed out by me. That's already a bad thing. So the whole encountering a bear, your chances of actually seeing real harm are way higher if you're even just seeing one. And a bear sighting in the woods, people who lived up there their whole lives, they're like, well, time to bring out my bear gun. They carry this big ass pistol with them everywhere they go for the next 7 weeks. Sometimes they like figure it, they like talk to each other to figure out where it is and maybe if someone got it, if it's starting to be menacing. Like it's that big of a deal. So we don't do that with men. But so that's my real politically incorrect take is if you're walking alone in the woods unarmed and you think, oh, a bear wouldn't be so bad, you're asking for it. So that's why it's a stupid question.
And that opens up another great side topic that we should touch into. The whole "you're asking for it" thing, I think, is a conversation that we could give a whole podcast to. Because
we do not want me to talk about that because there's
no, we probably don't. But I think you'd be surprised that in some ways I'm going to agree with you on this. Because as a law enforcement officer in 4 years, do you know how many times we've had a guy who had no business walking through a certain neighborhood with cash in his pocket and drugs in his pocket, and he didn't have friends there. He was just doing it because he wanted to do it. He wanted to prove to someone he was a badass, or he wanted to do that. He had other ultimate, and he walks through and he gets his butt whooped and he gets robbed and his stuff gets stolen. And he gets beaten within an inch of his life. And yeah, you're a victim, and it sucks that you're a victim of a crime. And ultimately the blame lies in the people who are willing to commit that to you. But at the same time, you have consequences to your actions. And if you make enough stupid choices and bad consequences happen to you, at some point, you need to make better decisions and make better choices. And I feel like that is a whole topic we could have that would have some Venn diagram overlap with this. I really think
we probably could. And we'd probably have some surprising differences of opinions and stuff like that, too. I like to call that kind of stuff defensive driving because everyone's heard of defensive driving. Yeah, the guy shouldn't have ran into you, but if you didn't speed up to try to cut him off, you don't have an accident.
Yep.
Side note, I have this theory of that I would love to talk about someday, where I think every single car accident, including single car accidents, like where it's just one vehicle, requires at least 2 mistakes to be made, not one. The only time one would be like, I don't know, like someone has a stroke at the wheel or something like that, but you wouldn't really call that a mistake. You know what I mean? So
anyway, the first accident I had in my first Subaru, I was stopped behind a bus. The bus had pulled over and stopped, and then I obviously stopped behind the bus. And a woman who was an EMT was driving along, and she was very tired after working a midnight shift, and she was not paying attention. And I had my kids in the car, and she rear-ended me at full speed as I was literally at a dead stop behind a bus that had its signals out. I feel like that's a one mistake situation. So I'm going to go ahead and fire an outlier argument against your theory there. Otherwise, I would agree with it. But
jackass,
because I've got that one fresh in my mind, I'm like, yeah, I'm not buying into this thing.
You should have put your emergency flashers on, Tom. Well, but see, okay, but then my contention would be she probably made two mistakes. Not only was she not paying attention, but she may have like not been positioned over the brake, or like she could have been checking her cell phone or whatever. There could have been two distinct things that led to that, at least only from her end. I mean, my good example was, and this is funny, because I'm my very, 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 very first day behind the wheel ever. Like, I'm doing my training for my temp license with my mother in the car, and we stopped at Grater's, which is, I don't know if they have Grater's out there on the East Coast. It's an ice cream place. It's an ice cream chain. It's considered one of the top ice cream places just like around here. It's pretty good.
Fancy.
It is fancy. And we were at this Grater's in Upper Arlington, and I parked. I did in the parking, then we just get some ice cream, and then we're coming back, and like, okay, time to go. And I turn around, and I'm looking out the back, and I'm getting ready to back up, and the car doesn't move when I hit the gas. And so what do? Oh, I should probably double check everything. No, I hit the gas a little bit more because maybe it's just I'm just not hitting it enough.
Yep.
And I proceed to jump over the parking stop, and knock their fence over for the Graders. And so we go in and tell them and all that. And I sit there and I think that's a two mistake thing. My first mistake was I put it into drive because I had never had to consciously put it in reverse before. But the second mistake was I said, oh, the car's not moving, I should punch it harder.
I think the fact that you had to actually go out and literally explain that a bear is more dangerous than a man kind of verifies my point that women have taken this to a place it shouldn't have gone. It should have been a very interesting question, but they have taken this to a point now where we are actually looking at it in the most, of course, bears are more dangerous in an encounter than human way.
Yeah.
And that's not what it should have ever been about. It should have raised a bigger question. It should have been more about the other thing. And I think the fact that you go there just kind of speaks to the point that women, you done screwed this up. You defeated your own purpose.
I'm not even devil's advocating this when I say this, though. That's sort of a male thing, a male problem, to be like, oh, no, bears are more dangerous because blah, 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 blah. That's just our response to anything. We can completely miss the actual, underlying theme, if you will.
I didn't at first. Well, I did it first. For the first several days, I was enthralled. I'm like, where is this going to go?
You
and
cry
then every single one
You're
I
extremely
saw,
emotional.
I am. I'm a sap. but then every single post I saw for 8 straight days was, instead of this, it was just dumping on men.
You don't speak for the rest of us. You crybaby.
No, I don't. I'm not qualified to speak for us, I guess.
No, you're not. I saw what you did there, by the way. That was not a sound issue. For those of you listening, did I just have a stroke real quick? No, he did say qualified.
I did.
I do think it's kind of funny how you went the more existential, if you will, route behind this of, yes, the proverbial patriarchy and toxic men suck and all that stuff, but it's not helpful to attack the rest of men, if you will. I would acknowledge that the original question of your daughter is walking in the woods, yes, that's a better question, but it's only better in the sense of no one's personally attacking me just because I'm a gender. I still think it's a stupid question in a way, because, it's my opinion too, but just to see what happened, I asked my wife this question. I said, she's like, what is that? Okay, this is what they're asking you. Man, you're walking through the woods, man, bear, blah, blah, blah. And she goes, who would you rather encounter? And she goes, oh, a man. I'm like, cool, me too. And then, but here's the best part. I go, okay, so why? Because that's really what people are getting at, is why. And she goes, oh, because I have a chance to kill a man.
Yeah, I respect that.
It's
I don't like the reason that's the answer,
She's like, yeah, if someone's going to attack me, I have no chance of getting the best of a bear, but I might be able to get the best of that son of a bitch. Well, honey, I just got 2% more scared of you. Anyway, what are we doing next? But that's my take too with the whole daughter question is just if I'm just envisioning one of my daughters walking through the woods unarmed, asking for it, let's face it, because if I'm a decent father, they would know that you don't do this without some sort of rather large firearm that you've brought to the range at least 1.5 times, so you know how much kickback it has. If you're in this situation, I would rather have you encounter a man because not that I'm sitting here imagining all this stuff and like wanting this to happen, but God forbid you encounter a man who's not a nice person and he does some not nice things to you. At least you have some version of a chance of being alive. If a man attacks you, he might still not kill you. He might not be a killer. If a bear attacks you, you're fucking dead. I don't care. Like your chances of surviving any attack are way lower. So at least you're still alive. You're still here. We can still have each other. And I mean, I can't go get a revenge on a bear. I can't do it. So that's still why that's kind of a silly question to me.
So
And
the common
furthermore,
response to that, though, well, I don't want to cut you further off, but I'll give you the quick canned response from Facebook, is that women acknowledge that there are things, quote, worse than death, and that the man is going to do that while the bear is not. The man will inflict fates worse than death, while the bear will, quote, only kill me. Go.
well, there are fates worse than death, but those are also usually self-inflicted. Like, if you want to get religious for a second, selling your soul, that would be worse than death, for example, but also strangely tied to death because it's all about where you end up anyway. So find me a fate worse than death that doesn't actually sort of take effect upon your death.
Having my child abducted doesn't necessarily have death and get the kid back, but I would give my life to get my kid back. I would trade in that situation. So I feel like by willing to forfeit my life to get my kid back or prevent harm to my kid, I feel like that's a fate that's clearly worse than death. If I'm willing to embrace death to resolve it, then it's got to be worse than death.
That is a really, wow. Oh my God, you've grown so much.
Well,
As a philosophizer.
I've got a good podcast host who helps me grow by challenging me.
My counter argument to you is that it's not a fate worse than death. It's that you value your child's safety more than your life, if that makes sense. And we're getting into some real fine hair splitting when we talk about stuff like that. That is a good discussion. We should put a pin in it, put it in the parking lot, and then forget we ever did that and never talk about it again. Just like I'll
put it up. You know what we need in our agenda each week is at the bottom, just a running list of ideas we need to come back and revisit. We need to start adding that, and then we'll pick one every week.
We do.
I'm writing it down.
Okay, fine. Write it down. It was kind of along the lines of the asking for it thing, since, that's just the train I'm on right now.
Choo choo.
Yeah. Can you talk about seeing all the domestic issues and abuses and all that stuff? One of those things that often conveniently goes unmentioned is that when we talk about how dangerous men can be, especially when it comes to abuse of women, the vast majority of those, and I shouldn't even say vast majority, it's like, nearly all of them are not just by someone the victim knows. I believe that was something they said was something like 90+% of sexual assaults are by someone personally known to the victim. It's not random.
Yeah.
And of those, for the known, I think they said just for purely like assault and battery, like not any sexual stuff, but just like assault and battery for women, like 90% are like a romantic partner.
That doesn't surprise me, actually.
Right.
Having seen what I've seen, yeah, if that number were accurate, that wouldn't surprise me.
Right. So this is sort of like the other side of the asking for it coin, is that this is not a random encounter in the woods. This is not some random bear versus some random man. This is someone you picked to put yourself around and to essentially commit at least something to. So I could just say, I'll just cancel us right now. Whose fault is it really?
Welcome to the Two Dads Victim Blaming Podcast. It was nice to know you for an episode.
This was today, though. I had this exact talk through a totally different topic, just for the couple of the like 7.5 minutes that you get to talk to your wife when you have small children running around. It is about the decisions you make, but man, it is difficult to truly make good decisions without responsible, you know, parental or other like, just like not supervisor. Why can't I say this? Guardian. There you go. Guardian. Like some sort of responsible, loving guardian upbringing. It's so hard to make good decisions clearly for most people. So like just saying that like, oh, it's all your fault is also just a lazy man's take because and it's just a good story for a podcast. I'm just going to say it. I used to wait tables, and one of the bartenders at the restaurant I waited at, she was, by all accounts, just a cool chick, talk to you, nice, hang out. She'd go to the bar too and all that stuff. And there was a whole 10 or 15 group of us that went out to one of the local bars, just, hanging out as coworkers afterwards, after a shift. And, I'm 20 at the time. So as a 20-year-old male, if you're a female under the age of 50, I at least imagine what it might be like to at least date you. And of course, it's only dating, by the way. There was never any other imagination of anything else ever,
no, of course
for sure. And she was, I would say above the median, like, nice, decently smart, cool to talk to, like all that.
Is this a reference to you smashing the median? Are you trying to imply something here, like based on our episode that was titled Doug Smashing the Median? Is that actually like some kind of double speak for some sort of assault here? Is that what we're trying to get at?
No, not at all. This also involved no police officers, so it's definitely not.
Well, that's good.
But somehow
I approve the story. Continue. Right.
I'm sitting, this was one of those nights when I was sitting in the corner just listening to everyone else talk because I was just like completely tired. But somehow the topic came up of flashing people and guys versus girls flashing or mooning and all that stuff. And this same woman says something about how she's flashed people before. And, of course, some of the guys are like, oh, no, you haven't. Oh, yeah, prove it. The typical male egging on thing. And right. She gives into it and she just lifts up her shirt real quick. It's just like a second or two. But, I get to see what she's got. And you know what? I didn't have anything personally against her. It wasn't like, I hate you now. But she automatically went from like, oh, you're in the top half of people I'd actually like date in this restaurant to like, I'm never dating you. Like instant. And obviously, I'm sure she rose up a couple of these guys' lists, probably.
Yeah.
But that was the point of all of this thing that kind of came to my mind was if she had some sort of male influence around that said, hey, no, you don't do this. You're not, this attracts the wrong kind of guy. You should not need to do this to get attention, to get respect. That wouldn't have happened. And I certainly wouldn't have thought of her. My opinion changed on her immediately because first of all, as a young male, there is a little bit of this like element of the unknown, the hunt, the wanting to conquest, if you will. And now it was kind of like, well, I already know what's there now. So it's less interesting. And it automatically placed you in this spot of, if you're willing to do that, like if I'm dating you and you're out with your friends, are you going to be flashing other dudes even just to like get a couple of free drinks? Like I guess I can respect the hustle of getting some free booze, but at the same time, it's like I don't want that. So yeah, there's all these potential pitfalls now. So where I'm kind of going with this is that I'm not just sitting here saying, oh, it's your fault if you're part of domestic abuse, but at the same time, it's not like someone forced her to flash the rest of us just for fun. So we can't just sit here and blame the man or blame the bear all we want in a scenario like this. And to your last point about the patriarchy and especially, my God, like going back in history, it was way more patriarchal, like Vikings pillaging, plundering, all that stuff.
Yeah.
But we're at a time of history now where really, literally women can proverbially beat up on men like this, which is sort of a good thing that there's that permission, if you will, to do that, because there certainly was not in plenty of societies in the past.
Right.
But good God, don't do it. You are now losing the people that are in your corner trying to fight for you. When you're just castigating men across the board, then you have people like us who normally are like, no, she's a woman. You treat her with respect. Real men treat women with respect. But now when that woman's like, fuck you, and like, well, okay, not that one. Don't treat that one with respect anymore because she's not treating you with respect either. You want equal rights? Be equal.
Yeah.
And that's kind of, it's hard to get past that spot here, I guess, is my take, is that it's like the person who gets promoted to like lead supervisor and they don't actually have a new position, but now they start walking around like shitting on everybody. Like now everyone hates that person. That's just what this is.
Yeah, I think that's accurate. And it's, again, that's where I take issue with this thing. It's not the question. The question I think is interesting. I really do. But it's the fact that this has turned into, we've already talked about tribalism a bit. Episode 11, was that Reach
Yeah,
Week
just
11?
for like 5 minutes or
Yeah,
something.
just for 5 minutes or something.
Just-
It's just like my third favorite episode we've done so far. But yeah, we've talked about that a little bit, and that's what this is turning into. It has degenerated and been reduced from a really interesting question and one that probably should be looked at as it was intended to now it's just like, aha, women are better than men. And while we're at it, bears are better than men. And while we're at it, what else can we insert into memes that we can say are better than men? And and then the rallying cry is, well, if you're a man and you're bothered by this, then you must be exactly the kind of man that we should be scared of. And it's just the most asinine and stupid and reductionist. And it's turned into essentially a bunch of middle school girls trying to prove they're better than the boys, is what this has turned into. And it's just stupid because it could have been a really good question. This is like what would happen if Disney had made Pet Sematary. They would have taken something great and they would have
yes,
turned it into
bad
something
analogies are
awful.
back, baby.
Bad analogies are back. I'm going to make at least one of those every episode. This is the equivalent of Disney turning Pet Sematary into one of their movies or a spin-off TV show. That's what would have happened. They would have spelled cemetery correctly instead of the way Stephen King intended it. And yeah, it would have been awful.
This is like a remake of The Devil's Wear Prada with all men.
I've never saw The Devil Wears Prada.
I haven't either. I don't know. I'm just trying to make another bad analogy. I don't want to get left in the dust. Are you kidding me? You know what? In 5 or 10 more years, I will have reached the state of personal illumination, if you will, where I'll see stuff like this and I'll be like, you know what? Good. Say what you're gonna say. Keep casting men in a broad light like this because you are the one who will end up unhappy. You are the one who is now more likely to end up with a man who doesn't actually respect you. You're not showing respect for men, so any self-respecting man will not be with you. So if you end up with anybody, you're probably gonna
I'm never gonna get there because
it's Macbeth, man. It's gonna be a self-fulfilling prophecy. You're gonna keep encountering men who don't respect you because you don't respect them, and you'll keep thinking all men are the same, and it'll be Sisyphusian.
Sisyphusian. That should be a shirt too. Here's my problem with that. All right, and this is where I admit that I have bias in a very.
We haven't even gotten to my topic yet, Tom.
No, we haven't. I'm sorry. Screw your topic. I'm talking bears. We're barely into this one. All right. My position on this one needs some verification, and I'm going to give it right here.
Is that a speech impediment you got there?
Yeah, it's a speech impediment. Yeah.
Okay, good. I thought you were just throwing shit around in the woods. Does a bear shit in the woods, and does anyone hear it?
It depends on if there's a woman or a man nearby. I don't know.
Or if a tree falls, Tom. Come on, keep up.
I don't know. I can't keep up. Sorry for the pause. I apologize. Mm-hmm. Here's why that your whole scenario pisses me off, and why I will never just be like, okay, fine, you're bringing this on yourself.
I'm upset that you're like 5 puns to 0 on me right now.
You just got like 2 or 3 in there. You're doing all right. You're hanging in there. It's a grisly task keeping up with me. It's hard. We'll get there. Okay. I've spent most of my professional life, if you add up like my professional working years and you start looking at my years 18 plus as my career years, and you look at the things I've done in my professional life, over half of my professional life has been a relatively selfish position of serving people and of trying to help people and of trying to make things better for other people. And a lot of that time has gone toward helping women, helping people that were marginalized, working in schools that were in super poor areas, or as a police officer in a city that had a lot of poverty and a lot of crime and a lot of people who truly needed help. Most of my life has been about helping people. And to know a lot of people who made that same commitment with their lives, to know a bunch of police officers and firefighters and school teachers and EMS or emergency response workers, to know people who literally risk their ass every single day of their lives to help random people, a lot of whom turn out to be women who are voluntarily in these awful positions. To watch all those people get shit on by a question like this that is degenerated this way really is a slap in the face to all those people and to myself. And the fact that I want to help those people and I spend most of my life wanting to be in a position to make things better for those people. If I turn my back on it now and say, well, you know what, screw you, this is what you deserve, I'm really quite literally turning my back on the ethos that guided me for most of my life. If I could just turn my back on people and say, you know what, screw you, if you don't want my help, you're on your own. If that was something I could do, then none of those professions would have been the right choice. I wouldn't have invested myself in them also emotionally. It doesn't work that way. It might be logical, but a lot of guys are not built that way. We do stuff like that and we care about people, whether they want our help or not, whether they want to admit they need our help or not, whether they realize that they can do better or they can be better or not. It's a part of who people are. And a lot of these people I'm referencing are men. Most of them are men. We want these people to do better and to be better, and we want to help. And the fact that they're all just like dumping on us en masse doesn't make it any easier to say, well, screw you, deserve what you get. You're going to be unhappy one day, because obviously we already want something better than that for them. So I can't take that position, and I've got some bias toward it. And a lot of it's from my time as a police officer. You have no idea what police officers risk to take care of you, random woman who's in a shitty situation, in a shitty relationship on a nightly basis with that guy who is worse than a bear. I know there are guys that are worse than bears for you out there in the long-term relationship. I get that. I 100%. That's why the question is interesting. But there are also guys who risk their asses to fight that bear for you and to keep you safe from that bear and to hopefully get you away from that bear and to do battle with that bear if it needs to be done. And you're not just shitting on the bear in this situation that you chose to be with. You're shitting on the guy who's coming to save you from that bear. And it hurts on a really personal level. It really does. This is my sensitive feeling coming out. It is really, really hurtful the way all men are being lumped into this. It just is.
So two things.
Don't hurt my other feeling. I only have one left. Be gentle.
I'm coming for it. The first thing that I want to say is that you have just become slightly less manly for me.
That's fine.
Because you used en masse in the proper French pronunciation. You said en masse. This is Murica. I've actually been trolling my wife this last week by going, oh, wee wee, and running around the house. Twiddling my fake mustache. So she hates me.
I've got a French bear joke for tonight, so that's actually perfect. I'm glad that we went
awesome. But the second part is that I wasn't saying you're on your own, good luck, bye-bye, have a nice day, when you're castigating all men by saying, I'm not saying you deserve this, but I'm saying you're making your own bed by doing this. And to, I guess, drag a little bit of a parenting thing into this, other than just the whole your daughter part of the deal. Something that we've been pushing with our kids recently, because siblings, but daddy so-and-so did this, but daddy so-and-so's doing that. I was doing this, they did this. And we've been saying constantly, worry about yourself. Yep. We will take care of it. Like, if it's something really bad, sure, tell us. But, glass houses almost for a kid concept. Like, just make sure you're doing things right and we'll be cool. We'll take care of your sister. Right, exactly. So if you're one of those good men, continue to be that good man. Protect yourself first, because the world needs good men, and you can't put yourself in situations, again, unless it's worth the cost to where it's truly personal harm. But continue to be a good man, continue to help. Yes, it's frustrating that these people castigate you and vilify you and all this stuff, but that's, you make your own bed and they'll make theirs. And this is partly my own, this is why I hope all the whole religious stuff, afterlife, some version of a God is true, because I do hope there's a judge for all of us, because some people do absolutely deserve what's coming to them. Which probably might include me. I don't know, but
it probably includes me too. I'll be right there with you.
Right, but
I'm sure I deserve worse than you do. So.
It would just be nice to know that not only that there is judgment coming, but also that I'm not the judge. And that's more what I was saying with my position of like, this is it. This is you just being you, and that's your problem. It's like you're making your own bed, and someone else is going to judge you, presumably justly, for it. And it's my job to make my own bed. whatever that may be. And that's more what I was getting at. So I wasn't saying you're on your own, good luck. But
Now that you've put it that way, I like that a lot better. Yeah, that makes sense. And I
that
like
being
that.
said, I mean, it wouldn't be too much convincing for me to be like, well, those people, they can be on their own, though. That's fine.
All right, let's get on to your topic, because I'm just going to keep regurgitating my same angry position on this, and I'm going to get more riled up, and we're going to lose the one or two people we have left. So
you were on a roll last, like over that thing. So even though I wanted to jump in and be like, "Oh, that's actually not what I meant," I was like, it's like Animal House. It was just like,
I feel like you were just waiting to see if I could lose any more of your quote man points. Like you were like, "Oh, maybe he'll really put his foot in
maybe.
it. Maybe he's gonna, go full Elsa on me here."
Full Nelson?
Elsa.
Full Nelsa? Okay, so my top. Okay, well, let's just like do no segue into this. So it's related though. Another thing that just, boy, it might have been just today. Maybe it was yesterday too.
I think it was.
Again,
I think it was yesterday you sent it to me. I think.
okay, well then,
I think.
then yesterday, because I'm bad with time travel as always.
My first 3 days this week all kind of blur into one, so it could have been last week for all I really know.
Exactly. I'm dragging Tom down into my interdimensional time issues. There was I don't know what all these sites are. Is this a Reddit one? It might have been a Reddit one of those Reddit threads. And the title is, it's a good enough title as it is, "My 13-year-old son got punched by his girlfriend's dad." And I'm just going to read it. I know it's a little bit long, but I'm going to read it so you get the whole scoop. "My son is only 13. He has a girlfriend who he met at school. Today, he was over at her house. I've met and talked to her mom, but not her father. My son texted me asking me to pick him up. It was earlier than I expected. I went to get him, and I was horrified to find him with a bloody nose. My son refused to tell me what happened until we were home. I was cleaning his face, and he told me, very hesitantly, what happened. He said that his girlfriend's parents told her to keep her door open. He said she closed it anyway, quote, because you know. He said her dad stormed in, grabbed him and punched him in his face, and yelled at him to never disrespect his house or his daughter again. I told my son this is not okay and that he's going there again. I'm so upset I can hear my heart beating. There was no reason for this man on a child in italics. I texted the mother and she said she's so sorry and embarrassed." And for the record, the person sharing this comments on this saying, based on wife's response, not the first time this happened. And wife's response being, she's so sorry and embarrassed. So I think, well, a couple of things. Let's first off pretend that everything stated in this post is completely 100% true. We can speculate as to, because I mean, you have a 13-year-old teenage boy over at his girlfriend's house. I was not the most forthright person at 13. Maybe that's just a personal problem, but I was not. I would have told the story to my parents that way in this situation, but I would have left out the fact that maybe he walked in when I was like lying on top of my girlfriend or something. So it wasn't just sitting there with the door closed. But let's just take everything at face value. I think this is clearly the boy's mother creating this post for a couple of reasons. She said she's talked to her mom, not the father. She said she texted the mother about what happened. She said in italics, there is no reason for this man to attack a child, my son, a child. And also cleaning his face and all that stuff. Like if a man is typing this, a man is saying, hey, I've never met this dude before. What do you guys think I should do? That's basically what the post would say. It wouldn't say, and maybe this is just me being my own version of toxic masculinity. If I'm in this parent's shoes with this, my son who just got born, if he's 13 and I hear the same situation, I'm not texting the mom. I'm going back over to the house and being like, you have one shot to give me your side of the story. And then I'll decide what I'm going to do. And I think that's where this discussion will end up going is the response that will come, because I think that's the very male thing is how do you respond to this? But that's the topic is just what do you think of this? I think that almost no matter what the situation is, unless 13-year-old son is very egregiously lying, this was uncalled for. I can actually create a situation where it's okay for a man to punch a 13-year-old boy. And that is, walks in on him pulling on your daughter's shirt and she's telling him to stop and he's clearly, not listening to it and all that. That's a situation where absolutely you should get socked in the face.
Yep.
You're not getting picked up though. I'm throwing you out on the lawn and I'm calling your parents and saying, you should hear what your son did. You can choose to believe me or not, but he's waiting on my front lawn. Come get him. You would not be hearing from your son first, for sure.
Yep.
So I think this guy was almost certainly in the wrong just from the fact that the son is the one initiating the contact. Again, if we're taking this whole post completely at face value. The second thing that I think that you do have to read between the lines here is that this parent, presumably the mom, is saying, I've met and talked to her mom, but not her father. And the mom is just saying, I'm so sorry and I'm so embarrassed. If there was actually something in the wrong here, it should be, I'm so sorry. We're still figuring out what happened with our daughter, something like that. There should be more to this story of like, we'll keep working on it. But just trying to like wave it off of like, oh yeah, I'm so sorry. This is so embarrassing, blah, blah, blah. It does make it sound like dad is just an aggressive guy. This sounds like the kind of guy who actually, started the phrase shotgun wedding. He seems like the one who's very confrontational and he doesn't care how old you are. And it's his way or the highway. And so while I'm going over there and figuring out what happened and making it clear that I don't think this is okay, my confrontation is not right there if I feel it's warranted. My confrontation is later. And or it's not exactly physically on you. It's, your electricity goes out. Or your car gets a slashed tire. Or wherever you work, things suddenly get a little bit more difficult for you. You're not sure why. That's my response to something like this. If I feel like you basically just assaulted my son for a bullshit reason. I would also question a little bit, and here's the other side of this too. All of this is predicated on the fact that once we got him all cleaned up and he was all, kind of feeling a little bit more better and safe, I would kind of grill my son on like, hey, what really happened? I'm not expecting the story to change, but I kind of want to, put him under the spotlight a little bit and see if the story stays the same. You sure you weren't like, getting a little frisky? You sure you haven't done anything like this before and you just thought you could sneak it in the house now? And I at least like to think that I would know my kid well enough that in a situation like this, I would be able to read whether or not they're telling the truth. I have tried to, we both have tried to say with our kids, even now, even if you don't think we'll be happy, you need to tell us the truth because otherwise we can't help you. So if we can keep that up, even in a situation like this, I am most helpful to you where you tell me everything, even if you think I don't want to hear all of it. So that's my response. Go, Tom. I know what your response would be. It would be a little bit slightly more direct. You would not be using proper French, I think, in your response.
Oh, no. So let's start with this. I agree with your assessment that this post was probably written by the mom.
Okay.
And the key thing that made me feel that same way was the line, a man beat up my child or a man hit my child. What the emphasis on a man made me feel like this was probably coming from a woman's point of view. And whatever, it doesn't matter to me.
There, that aggressive male side. He's just the opposite of boy. You're like, whatever, dude.
My reaction to this. One, I was a 13-year-old boy once, and I know what that's like. And I know that it's changed a little bit since I was a 13-year-old boy, but not everything has changed that dramatically. And while at 13, if I was in my girlfriend's bedroom with the door closed, I would probably be making out with her and I'd probably be kissing and we'd be touching, I'm sure. It's not like I'm in there assaulting or having sex with my girlfriend at age 13 with her parents outside the door. That's not something that was happening. So I feel like the level of inappropriateness is probably below that. Like we're lower than that. I'm going to set that as the ceiling and we're lower than that. The kid probably was not assaulting or actively having sex with this girl is my guess. Because
Yeah, can I jump into your muddy waters here? Because
yeah.
that's actually a good point that I didn't think about with all this. Was I when I was 13, I'd have no idea what to do.
Yeah.
I didn't know what I was doing at 15 and 17 most of the time, as it turns out, looking
Yeah.
back on everything. So
Yeah, 25, 30, 40,
Yeah.
who still don't know, still learning things.
how old am I now? but but right, but that's a good point. But then I'm sitting there thinking, with like based on what you said, hopefully the editing thing just cuts this out. It's not just that I didn't know what was doing. It's just that when I was 13, I'm just trying to figure out a way to say this. When I was 13, because I remember, because I was a freshman in high school, and I know I was in that age range. I was like 14 or 13 or something like that. I was thoroughly convinced that if I did it exactly right, like I had to say, maybe right down to the syllable, the exact right word, the exact right phrase, the exact right cadence, outfit, whatever. I was convinced that I could pick up any woman on the planet. Giselle Bundchen in her prime, to use a Tom Brady reference. I was convinced that if I just had enough swag, or whatever you want to call it, I could land even her if I did it just right. As a 13/14-year-old, I later realized there was absolutely zero chance in hell that most women would. Not just because it's illegal either, mind you. It's just like, no, you're a fucking kid. Get the fuck out of here. So, sorry, I'm getting back out. I'm grabbing my towel, drying myself off. Keep going.
So that's where I'm setting my expectation. Like, the worst thing that happened in that room behind that door was not that bad. So I've got a ceiling set. Like, I know I've got
Thank
you're
you.
on mute.
Sorry, it was started by the girlfriend, if anything.
I'm not going to go there. But on that same hand, she is the one that disobeyed the dad and closed the door. So, anyway, knowing that the worst thing that could have happened was below that. And also the most innocent thing that happened was probably kissing and touching. Like, that's my floor. And, it was probably more than that and definitely less than the other thing. I cannot think of a situation in that range that justifies another man punching my son in the face. Anything between that floor and ceiling, I can't think of anything there that justifies that. And if something
It has to be bear in the woods, Tom. It has to be assault.
I guess it does. If something did happen in that room that justified something like that, and the parent didn't immediately call me and text me about what happened, that's a whole nother level of I'm pissed about what just happened here. So that was my first level interpretation of the situation, my reaction to the situation. If I were to get home after picking up my son and ask what's wrong and what happened, and then he tells me my girlfriend's dad punched me in the face, and I get this exact story that we got. The best case scenario is that I call them, I drop my kid off at my house, and I turn the car around and I call them on the way to their house. That is the best case scenario. And that they have some sort of an explanation or an answer that is good enough that I turn my car back around and go home after I talk to them. That's the best case scenario, not for my son, because that means there was a valid reason for this, and his ass is now in trouble. But that's the best case scenario for this. The next best case scenario is that I call the police. And I say,
thank you. I was going to ask you to call the police on the way.
A grown-ass man just assaulted my child. Have someone show up at that house. I will be there in 5 minutes. You had better beat me there. That would be second best case scenario. Third scenario is I am just steaming over there in my car as fast as I can, and I'm going to pull a Colin Farrell on this guy from True Detective, and it is going to be, one of us is going to be significantly hurt by the time that night is done, and it's going to be really, really ugly, and the consequences will be what they are. Because you don't hit my kid in the face. You're not going to put your hands on my son. That's just, you'd better have good cause. Because I do have the bear in me. I have that sheepdog in me, and I am not afraid to let that loose. I'm really not. So yeah, those are my three reactions. It would be one of those three things, I think. And I don't know which one is most likely. Knowing my son and what a ridiculous sweetheart he is, my son is governed by big emotions. He does not have control over them. So when he has the big sweet reaction, he's very empathetic. And when he has that, you're just like, wow, this is the sweetest human being that's ever been put on the planet. When he's upset, you get a very different reaction. You're like, this kid won't stop. But my son, if I'm making this about me, and again, I'm reducing it from the big question and I'm making it all about me.
Yes.
If I'm going to go that route, then someone punched my son in the face and they provided no justification. And when I picked my kid up, they didn't say anything. And I heard about it from him after the fact. That tells me my kid was probably not in the wrong. Because if my kid was in the wrong, you would have said, hey, your son did this. This is what happened. Or there would have been a police officer saying, hey, your son did this. I would have been notified before I picked my kid up and drove him all the way home. And the response I got from a parent would not have been, oh, I'm so embarrassed this happened. The banality of that statement is insane.
You're damn right you're embarrassed.
Yeah, well,
might be more here in a second.
You'd be a lot more embarrassed in a few minutes if you find out your husband hits like a freaking girl and whimpers like an injured. Never mind.
Okay, so option number 3 is most likely.
I think option 2 is probably most likely.
Literally,
at some point on that drive, I would think the reason would click in and I would call for a police officer. I think option 2 is most likely, but not by a lot.
And so it's funny because for me, it's a time thing. My initial reaction would be, I'm going to go maybe kill this guy. Because if he's willing to do this, then, in my mind, that's kind of like what we talked. This is here's my bad analogy. We talked about the rough collie guy who dressed up like a dog and how you should have 4 padded walls if you're someone like that. Not because I personally hate you, but because you're unpredictable and I have a family to look out for. This is the same category. This guy, in my mind, is unpredictable. Sort of. This strikes me as a very easy to predict personality because it's not a very high level personality, if you will. It's just, he's the guy that literally thinks my house is my castle, my word is law. He might as well be a king. And while he has his law of not closing the door as his reason for punching my son, this strikes me as the kind of personality where he's one step away from just punching my son just because he felt like punching somebody. Mm-hmm. This is not someone with a lot of reason to sit there and let his daughter be alone in the room with a boy and then assume completely that his daughter is like a perfect little angel who would never do anything either. I mean, to be perfectly honest, it sounds like daughter almost deserves a hair of blame here too, because you think she didn't at least understand that this could potentially happen. She probably doesn't like him very much, and that's why she's closing the door, because she wants to have a chance to even talk with her boyfriend about anything. So, but the only reason that I would not probably be doing option number 1 and just going right there and responding in kind is that I would have just enough time to sit there and think, multiple reasons. If all of society operated this way, it would be anarchy. We wouldn't need police because we'd all just be killing each other. Literally, it would escalate constantly for stuff like that. Option number 2 is that this is a hard thing to express, I think, mentally. I'm not a fighter. I don't have like professional training I played tennis growing up. So it wasn't even something like fighting-ish, like wrestling or water polo where you secretly try to drown each other or anything like that. Like I played tennis and I took an 8-week boxing workout, at one point in my life. So I can punch real good, which helps when you're like a big dude. So I'm not the type of guy to just go engage in anything physical, even though there's a little part of me that likes that. When it's my family involved, especially when it's defending my house, I will kill you. I am very much the mentality of like, the burglar shows up and they say, aren't you going to call the cops? And I say, why? They don't know you're here. like I'm that person. Yep. So, and I do know how to use a firearm and I'm pretty damn good at it. So that's my 2 cents here is in this situation, this is not lethal response. So while I'm going to tell anybody who listens, you actually don't want to mess with me, this kind of response is not really an altercation I want to get into because it's not a lethal level response. I'm not out here to actually end you. I'm just out here to respond in kind. I am not as equipped to do that as other people if I so choose to do that. There's enough time on the drive over and calling them where I sit there and I think, you know what? I should just call the police, get it on record, to where if anything does happen, that actually works in my favor of if he shows up at my doorstep, now I can respond the way I would ideally want to, and I now have a police report against him, and it helps my case. I'm trying to think about it logically. Right. the other response is kind of like what I said is this guy is not smart enough to really think through to the next step, which is obvious based on the scenario. So what's stopping me from making his rest of his life a living hell? Oh, that's one of your tires is flat. Not all of them, they're not slashed. Boy, that's a bummer. Oh, what's that? Your telephone goes out. Oh, that's a bummer. Oh, what's that? You have some flooding in your backyard. That's a bummer. Just and he's not going to be smart enough to make the connection, especially if you have 2 or 3 weeks in between each event. So that's my take. There are ways to respond nonviolent that are really fun.
I would hope that I would settle for option 2. I really do, but I
probably
know that I would.
I probably would, but it would be specifically with the in mind of this is a first time. Let's build our case. If anything more comes of this, a jury of our peers will be much more likely to side with the guy who's still alive and not the dead guy when you have the other backdrop.
Yeah. And all we did was prove that men are awful, dangerous, terrible human beings with this topic.
No, that's not true. Because I was going to say, I didn't get a chance to say this way back on your topic, but oh my gosh, men are so scary. Men in society, most of their violence is received by other men too. So, men are so scary and violent and all that stuff. Yeah, they are. Some of them are. But that also means that male victims also, do male victims pick a bear too? That would be the real survey question is like, hey, you look like you've been assaulted by a man before. Would you prefer that guy or a bear? Don't worry, it's anonymous.
It's all anonymous. It's all good.
Right. Like I don't know how you get those results, but that's just what I think is that, it's the bell curve mentality. It's the bell curve concept is that you have a bunch of shitty men on the one side, but your buffer against that is a bunch of the good men on the other side. And so, yeah, like a random man can potentially be dangerous, but your best protection against said dangerous man is other men, realistically. If you're a woman, the best protection is not you, unless, and this is again, big Second Amendment thing, unless you're trained in some sort of weaponry. Your best protection against bad men is other men. So don't put away the broad brush. Try to have a little bit of nuance.
Yeah. And honestly, the easiest answer to that question, if you want to really reduce it and boil it down, the simplest answer to that question is I would choose the man over the bear every time because my 45 or my 9mm will take that man out. Neither one of those is going to necessarily take out a bear.
That's why I love you so much. You're basically my wife. I could kill him.
All right. So we're doing a draft instead of a top 3 tonight.
Yay.
How many are we drafting? We drafting 3 each? Or we drafting
just
5?
Just 3 each. Because I don't know. I thought this would be a good topic for me, and I just realized I'm going to be so cliche, so I just got to have 5 good ones, just in case. You go first, though.
I go first, or you go first?
You go first.
Oh, I'm going to go with the orca, number 1.
Ooh,
the killer whale.
Good choice. I like it.
Did you ever see the documentaries about how they hunt in pods and they work together and some of the crazy things that they can do working as teams?
I don't know if I've seen a whole documentary about that, but I've seen some of that stuff.
Watched the documentary about it, and there was one where a pod of them chased a bunch of seals, and the seals all hop up on this ice float, right? And the seals, they're safe on the ice float. The killer whale can't get up there. The whales all back off. They have like 2 of them that continue circling to keep the seals on the ice float, and like 4 or 5 of them back off, and they go way, way back, and they swim as fast as they can and gain momentum, and they know how to dive and create a wave that'll tip this little piece of ice up, and they learn how to tip the thing off, and they tip the thing up so it dumps the seals into the waiting mouths of whales on the other side. It is a coordinated attack, and it's just. Wow.
That's not that special. My cousins had some neighbors that had 2 English Mastiffs one time, and one of them used to run into the fence to knock the squirrels off, and the other one would get the squirrel. So it's not that special. It's fine.
It's quite the same, but that is pretty cool.
It's just like, man, that's really vicious.
So my first draft pick was killer whales, and Doug took Mastiffs, I think. So that's good.
No, I didn't take Mastiffs. No. My first one was just going to be really boring. It was the cheetah.
Okay.
because and it's not just that they're crazy fast and all that fun stuff. It's that they only have like a 10 or 20% success rate
Really?
for their actual attacks, I think. Well, what's his face? David Attenborough said it, so it must be true
Must be.
on the one documentary. But yeah, so that was the interesting thing to me was that they're regarded, and I think what he said was they have a 10 to 20% success rate for their actual, their sprints, their charges. They can make an attempt, fail, stalk, go back, wait, try again, anywhere between whatever 30 to 60 minutes kind of thing. So it's not like they only get one shot at each herd or anything, but apparently that's a pretty high success rate for a predatory cat.
Okay.
Is when the highest is something like 30 or 40%, I think, for most of these guys. So, right. You would think it'd be maybe higher, but that's why I like them, because they actually apparently have a decent success rate and they're the fastest. And what's not to like? I don't know.
So the one that I'm hoping to draft with my third overall pick here has a 90+% success rate when it attacks.
Nice.
And that one I am excited about. But my number 2 pick was also a cat, and it's one that we've mentioned on the show before. I'm going with the jaguar, because we've talked about them jumping into rivers to kill anacondas and crocodiles and alligators. And there's still not many pictures that are more badass than what we talked about way back in episode like 5 or 6 or something, with just the underwater jaguar as he's diving into the water to get something, and he's jaws agape and claws open. Like, that's an awfully terrifying picture.
It is. It's the kind of that's good PR is what that is.
Yeah.
Oh, let me find this. The Loggerhead Strike, which is a great name, by the way.
Sounds like a WWE finishing move for a wrestler.
Right, it does. I haven't thought about that before. But so its nickname, this is that, let's face it, this is also good PR. This is why I like it, because this is how I first heard of it. It's nicknamed the Butcher Bird because it consumes insects, amphibians, lizards, small mammals, and small birds. And some prey end up displayed and stored at a site, like in a tree.
Wow.
And it's this little, it almost looks like a little like chickadee, it's like a little gray and white like thing with a little, just black on its tail and its head. And it's just this, it looks like a little songbird, but literally it'll fuck you up, including other songbirds.
Loggerhead Shrike. Okay.
Loggerhead, yes, Shrike, Shrike.
I had to look it up now. Yeah, this thing looks like just an innocent little bird. And so you look at the picture, the first one I see of it, and you realize that next to it is another bird impaled and mauled on a branch. Right. And that's, wow.
Here you go. That's on the Wikipedia page. So they have been repeatedly observed killing prey larger than themselves by spearing the neck or head of the animal and twisting. The speed at which this occurs causes a whiplash injury to the animal.
Yeah, there are some savage images here of it impaling things on sticks.
These people, these little peepers are just ridiculous.
There's one of it impaled a snake in this one. Wow.
I know.
This little bird looks like it's the kind of bird you would find in your grandma's cage next to her couch with the canaries just like sitting there. And wow.
Yeah, but he will mess you up.
Yeah, this little guy's a savage.
He is.
He impales all kinds of stuff. Oh, I see lizards. I see insects. I see other birds. I see a snake.
Yeah.
Oh, that's a good pick. And I'd never heard of this.
Thank you.
And there's a Wild Kratts episode about this. Oh, I'm going to have to watch that with the kids. All right, cool.
Yeah, this dude's a little... He's like nature's serial killer, I feel like. He's just going to get you.
Yeah, there you go. There's one of a mouse like dangling, it's impaled, and he's like sitting here just standing above it looking down like, now what? Wow. All right. Well, I'm for my number 3 pick, I'm going to go with something that's kind of boring, but I was super impressed when I saw that it had a 95% success rate when it
that's prey. I feel like, you know what? If we're going to be a meritocracy.
Yeah, got to give it some credit. I'm going to go with a dragonfly.
Absolutely.
Of all things.
Yeah, that's actually a pretty good choice when you consider, well, especially then we got about a day or two to work with. So it's pretty good also.
And honestly, I probably wouldn't have picked it despite that, except for the fact that one, they eat mosquitoes, and I despise mosquitoes, despite our previous, got to save the mosquitoes, despite our take on that from Lilo and Stitch. I despise mosquitoes, and the fact that they devour mosquitoes makes me happy. And two, when I think of a dragonfly, the first thing I think of is the opening scene from Men in Black, and I just love that scene. It's really, really awesome. So yeah.
Wait, a dragonfly?
Yep. It shows it flying. It shows it against the night sky, so it kind of looks like it's out in outer space, and it's like an alien flying around. And then eventually it pulls back and zooms back, and you realize it's just an ordinary dragonfly flying around on planet Earth at night, like underneath the full sky. But they do a really good job with the way they present it. It's pretty neat.
This didn't register for me. I need to. Next time I watch that, I'm going to have to figure that out.
Just watch the opening scene, and we should probably put the opening scene to Winnie the Pooh, Blood and Honey on this one too, since it relates to our topic, and people might choose the bear. So I will find a clip with the first 10 or 15 minutes of that we can link in the show notes, and I will put a link of the True Detective season 2, the reference I made to Colin Farrell, where he shows up on the doorstep and beats the kid's dad stupid. I'll put that link in there for you.
Okay, well, see, this is going to sound weird. That feels okay, but the Winnie the Pooh, Blood and Honey.
Hey, if you're going to choose a bear, you should know what you're getting into.
Based on what you described, though, that sounds. I don't know. That sounds like something maybe we shouldn't put somewhere.
This episode will be extra explicit and will infringe on copyright law. All right, we're doing jokes. We got jokes.
I've only done 2.
I've got 2. Oh, you only done 2?
You did the orca.
You're absolutely right. All right, give me number 3.
Wait,
you did a cat and a bird. And
I did the leopard and the shrike.
And
you did the orca.
You did cheetah, the shrike.
I did the cheetah and the shrike.
Yep.
Oh, you did, and you did orca and jaguar and dragonfly.
Yep.
Yeah. So,
give me that good 3.
Komodo dragon.
Nice.
I like him. I like him a lot. Not just because he's like a dinosaur lizard or whatever. Typically, their diet is carrion. Just dead stuff. But they will attack large prey, including goats, pigs, deer, wild boar, horses, water buffalo, and ready for the kicker?
Big animals.
Even smaller Komodo dragons. These motherfuckers are ruthless.
I should have gone with camel spider for my third one. I wanted to go with like a wolf. I've always had a thing for wolves.
The trapdoor spider or whatever too. Like I thought about
the camel spider from the desert. That's the one I should have gone with.
Yeah. Well, so they ambush them, inject them with venom, and then pursue the animal until it succumbs.
Well, it's not really venom with a Komodo dragon, right? Isn't it just the bacteria that they naturally grow in their mouth? Isn't that the thing about Komodo dragons? It's like a naturally occurring bacteria.
They bought it instead of producing it themselves, like whatever.
Venom's just a very different thing than a bacteria.
We can all go to the surplus store, Tom. Like I said, it's the same. It's the same thing. Oh, and then this is like they can eat 80% of their body weight in a single feeding. I love these guys.
Like a teenager. Okay.
Right. Well, so I did a little stupid book report on these things when I was in like 6th or 7th grade, and I only got to like they're big lizards and they're really fun. And then later I was like, wait, they eat each other. There was so much untapped potential with my science fair.
Yep. That's a fun one though. I did one on Komodo dragons as well, and I think what did my daughter do one on? She had an animal one this year too. I don't think it was Komodo dragons, but someone in her class did Komodo dragons, and I was like, yes. The tradition that lives on. But like you said, they're basically dinosaurs. Like a crocodile was one I almost put on my list. And
I know
there's a dinosaur thing,
That was another one on one of those Attenborough things. Was maybe it was one of the alligators, but some of the ones in some regions they only eat once a year.
Really?
Like they wait for one of those big, migrations of wildebeest or whatever, and they just. They catch them as they cross some of those streams that they have to go across on their migration route, and like they said, like it's bad if one of these guys doesn't get one this year because they'll have to wait till next year, and they'll be a little bit weaker to catch the next one. But like they have one big like feeding like pretty much per year or whatever, and that's.
I know long feeding periods are common with snakes. I didn't realize that was something.
I think it's one of those things where they get little stuff here and there, but like their actual like meal like real eating is like once a year.
Wow.
So I almost looked for that, but I mean, come on. Komodo dragon. Yeah. And a killer songbird. Sorry, like you're fourth. It's okay. It's okay.
I think it would probably spike the dragonfly. I think
Right.
I think the Shrike is the winner here.
All right, let's do dad jokes and
Dad
GTFO.
I did promise a French joke.
Oh, that's right. You did. Oh, I'm gonna catch up on my French, all 25 words that I remember. Let's see what do I remember.
You don't even know any French words for this. You really don't.
École, la plage. And computadora.
Are we going to school at the beach? Is that what we're doing?
Yes. Or there's just this. That's all you got. Or I can tell you to follow me. Allons-y. Let's go. Come on, man.
Let's go. Let's go. I use that all the time with my kids. Allons-y. What? Let's go. So both of my jokes are bear jokes, and one of them happens to have a French person in it. You remember when we had fun with the what do you call a man with no arms, no legs, like that whole episode?
Yeah. The whole stream. Yeah, fucked. Yeah, got it. In the
That's
desert.
one of my favorite ones, actually.
I know. Oh man, you brought two again. God.
I always bring two, just in case one of them's bad. I go for quantity.
I'm not looking up a second one.
That's fine.
Yeah.
What do you call a man who's had his arms and his legs? I'm sorry. What do you call a French man who's had his arms and his legs ripped off by a bear?
And I don't have to know French.
Nope.
For this?
Nope.
Perry.
No.
That's just a regular name. That could just be a regular French name, like Perry, Paris. I don't know. Something is telling me that I could find my way to this. So a bear rips off his arms and his legs?
Yes. I believe in you.
God, it feels like it has to be something with like torso or chest or something like that, like Henry David Torso. Oh,
we're just looking for a first name.
First name.
Just a good traditional French first name.
Army. Henri.
No.
Leggy. It's not Pierre. It's not Berrois, to use the pun.
But Benoit would be a good place to look, I guess.
Yeah, I can't. I'm not getting there for some reason. I don't know. I'm sorry, everybody. This feels like I've let everyone down. Most importantly, I've let down Tom.
Claude.
What?
Claude.
Damn it.
I thought you were going to get there.
Fuck.
I promise you my second one's better. You won't hate the second one.
No, this is a good one. I'm upset.
And you can be upset, but you can make it up to me with good jokes. All right. So the second one, you don't need to respond. You can just sit back and enjoy the second.
Sit back and continue to hate myself.
No. You'll love yourself for this one. This is one that you'll tell. A bear walks into a bar.
Oh, good.
He sits down.
Everyone freaks the fuck out.
No, they all prefer him to the men, so it's okay.
Right.
They're just glad a man didn't walk in the bar.
And that's the joke. Good night, everybody.
The first thing the bear does is spot a woman sitting at the bar, a drunk woman, rip her to pieces and eat her in her entirety. Just destroys this woman with his claws and then eats her dead corpse. Then he pulls up a stool and tries to order a beer. And the bartender says, "Sorry, I do not serve drug abusers in here." The bear looks at him and says, but I don't do drugs. The bartender says, "What about that bar bitch you ate?" Doug is muted, but he's laughing, so I think he likes it.
I'm not muted.
Oh, you had no audio. I could see you chuckling, but you had no audio.
Yeah, well, that's fair. Okay.
Yeah, barbiturates. I like that one. Some people are still trying to work that one out.
Yeah.
But I felt like that fit the topic for today pretty darn well. And I had to go
that
with
one. It took me a second though. I was just sitting there thinking like, oh, well, yeah, she's obviously a drug addict and he abused her, but I didn't. And then you said barbiturate and I went, wait. Claude should have, but see, Claude was easier. So
yeah.
Yeah, but yeah, barbiturate. It's good. All right. Well, maybe I'll just do my one because I liked it. I liked it. It was good. It hit.
Go for quality over quantity.
Thank you. You know what? I will. Thank you. Yes. Why do predators avoid the 100-acre wood? And I feel like you should get this.
Something poo, blood, and honey. No, it's not that. Why do they avoid the 100-acre wood?
Yeah, why do predators avoid the 100-acre wood? I guarantee you're overthinking it.
Probably am. I'm trying to think around the word prey or a lack of prey, and I can't get there with that. Is anything they eat's going to make them poo? I don't.
They're close. They're very close.
No, I'm too tired. I'm not getting there.
Because they don't want to eat poo.
Ah, okay. All right. Yeah, that works. I like that. That's good.
On the plus side, I did stumble across one that fits a little bit of something we talked about earlier. You ready? So I'll just give you a bonus second.
Is it a kid getting punched in the face?
No. This is serious business, Tom. My jokes are super serious.
They are.
Why can't you cook wood on a stove? This is also very bad. In fact, I'm actually questioning my own already minimal reputation by telling this joke.
Why can't you cook wood on a stove? I don't know. Why can't you cook wood on a stove?
Because you need a non-stick pan.
Cute.
Yes, you're welcome.
I like that. That's cute.
Yeah, it hit me in a weird spot. That was good for some reason.
I like it.
All right.
That works.
So I'm going to propose something. Instead of saying, hey, everybody, here's these 18 things you should do to help us grow, we're just going to give you dad homework.
Okay.
And I'm throwing this off the cuff at you. Your dad homework is to do exactly one thing if you're listening to this. And it's super duper quick. No matter where you're listening, I don't care if it's Apple Podcasts or Spotify or Podbean, where we're hosted, or Podcast Addict or iHeartRadio or any of that stuff. Just rate us. And you don't have to say anything. You don't have to even put a little dot in the comment section. You just hit the stars and call it a day. That's it. Because apparently, if we just get at least 3 stars, it's good enough anyway. We just need people to rate us. 3.5
stars wouldn't change a thing.
That's it. So just do that. That's your dad homework. Just you're already looking at it. You're already going to close this app in a second after you're done listening to this. Before you close it, just use your little thumb, your rating thumb. Make sure it's your rating thumb, your professional thumb. Just hit one of the stars and then you're good. And that's it. How we do it.
I like that a lot.
Done.
We've been going for an hour and 45-ish minutes. Do we want to do updates or we
do your updates?
I just feel like this is going to be traumatic. Okay,
good. Do it.
So Doug recently talked about having watched The Postman, one of the episodes we released maybe 2 weeks ago. I think it was What is a Woman? We talked about it. And his update was that he watched The Postman and that he liked it and that it was a good one. It was a good flick. Well, my wife, and listening and being a good supportive wife, was like, oh, I've never seen The Postman. We should watch that. Like, we've talked about the fact that I haven't seen that and that you say it's one of Kevin Costner's best movies. And all right, we should watch that. And we managed to find time to sit and watch a movie, which in and of itself is crazy. So we sat and we watched The Postman. And watching The Postman with me is probably a mistake because I look at everything from a very analytical writer, literature sort of perspective. And as my poor wife is just trying to enjoy this movie, I cannot help but describe it in terms of, oh, look, this young man here that, betrays him, that he winds up stabbing with this knife, is a foil to the young man he meets in Pineview, where essentially he takes this one traitorous kid who just wants to be a part of something out of the world by killing him. And then he goes to Pineview and discovers this other young man who just wants to be a part of something. And he basically baptizes this kid and gives birth to his new life by bringing him in and making him a postman and giving him a purpose. Watching that movie with me is full of awful things like that as a writer, I can't help but see and I point out. And my poor wife is just trying to enjoy this movie and stare at Kevin Costner in his prime and enjoy the man candy. And I'm literally breaking everything down with symbolism and theme and all kinds of references that my wife just couldn't care less about. So while my wife did enjoy the movie, it turns out watching a movie like that with me is probably a mistake if you're not also looking at it from an English literature, give me all of the tools that they're subtly using here kind of point of view. And that's how I almost ruined The Postman for my wife.
Okay, so considering how much I heard, it sounds like you didn't almost ruin it.
I almost ruined it.
I mean, she fared a little bit better than Bill, the donkey,
Yeah,
at the
poor Bill.
beginning.
That scene
Poor
hurt
Bill.
her. She cringed. She felt bad for Bill.
Yeah.
That was tough.
But see, usually you get those scenes now in his movies, and then they show Bill later, and it's like, oh, they were just fucking with him. But like in that movie, they make it clear, like, oh no,
Well,
no,
they,
no,
they
no,
do
that
show
was
Bill again later, but it's yeah,
well, yeah, right, yeah, that was Bill.
that was Bill.
Well, yeah, it would suck to watch some movies like that with you, actually.
Yeah.
Sorry, I had to run just another quick wife request because, she said that she might be able to kill the man. So I got a little extra pep in my step here over the next couple of days.
Yep. Yep. You gotta hustle up when she calls your name.
I don't know. I was thinking more about, I didn't see okay, so the guy who tries to betray him, which is what I came back in on. I thought there was more just dichotomy of man in that scene where you have the one guy who's instantly, um, words are hard, inspired and, literally like basically knows he's probably going to die by helping him escape. And then you have the other guy who's willing to do whatever it takes to get in good with the bad guy because it's just all about his own survival, and that to me, that was more the dichotomy thing. Cause I think, um, wasn't his name Ford Lincoln Mercury
Yeah, that's the
that
name he
they
gave
pulled
himself. Yeah.
because of the dealership. I think he's more just meant to be another archetype of the guy who wants to see change and wants to be part of the change and just doesn't know how to apply himself yet. And then, Costner becomes like the avenue for that because really in that movie, the real unsung hero is Ford Lincoln Mercury.
In some ways, yes.
So, okay, so Costner's character, why can't I think of his actual name right now? What's
Because
his
they never
actual?
give him one. That's the beauty of it is they never gave him.
Do they never actually? Do
No,
you never
they
actually
leave
learn
him
his name in the
unnamed,
movie?
and so the whole takeaway
Really?
from that is absolutely anybody could have been that guy. Anybody is
Wow.
capable of that sort of a thing. There's a beautiful message in that. Another
And I
thing that
guess his daughter always
harped
says,
on.
"My father, my father, my
Yep,
father," when she's giving the speech. I never noticed that. See,
yep.
there you
She's
go.
unnamed.
Lost,
He's just the
lost on a
postman.
simpleton like me.
See, you would like watching a movie like this with me, maybe. My poor wife did,
I
probably
don't
not.
know. Your very poor wife. Uh, but what I saw was that he was the inspiration. So it's not like he's not important. I mean, he in some ways he's the needed piece. He's the most critical piece. But really, the mail routes and the system and everything else was built by Ford, and he in turn appointed and inspired other people. He was the one that actually had the far reach. But it's to use a bad analogy, it's kind of like is it Old School where Vince Vaughn's character convinces everyone else to join the frat and this is the
Yes.
Godfather and he just uses the Godfather as his like pedestal.
Yeah.
It's that in my mind. Um
I feel like Ford is a sort of untempered. That's it. He's untempered. He's at any cost, and he doesn't have the experience to know boundaries yet. So when people start dying, he doesn't pull them back. He doesn't change the routes.
right.
When they set the ambush and they kill the oneness
Mm-hmm.
group, he's told to get rid of the bodies. Kevin Costner, with the experienced veteran, with the more human connection to him, I think. He appreciates the value of life more. He says, get rid of the bodies. I don't want these people being blamed for what we did.
Right. It's also more
going out and
strategic
disposing of
though,
them,
too. Like he's also just trying to not cause he's not trying to build the bigger fire, if you will.
right. Whereas
Yeah.
Ford does just that. He takes the bodies and literally puts them on a
Lights them
cart
on
lit on
fire.
fire and rolls them into the enemy camp with a note that says postage due. Like
Right.
the problem is that Ford, he's unbridled ambition. His heart is
Right.
in the right place, but he's an at any costs and by any means kind of character. And those kinds of characters, they're anti-heroes. They don't get to be heroes. They're anti-heroes, and they can be noble and they can be heroic. But if you're doing that sort of thing without also valuing human life and without having a line that you won't cross, then you're an anti-hero, and that's fine too. It's just most of my favorite characters are anti-heroes. Deadpool and Batman and the Punisher, and like most of my favorite fictional characters that they're heroes are actually anti-heroes, and that's fine. But Kevin Costner is the one that reins everything back in and ultimately resolves the problem.
Counter argument. you need both in this case.
Yes.
The mail routes and the ultimate resolution and defeat of the bad guy does not happen without Mr. Unbridled Optimism.
Probably
unbridled
true.
ambition. It does not.
Yep.
So you need unbridled ambition with checks and balances, or unbridled optimism and ambition. Excuse me. I don't know why I keep saying optimism. I'm just an optimistic guy, I guess. But you need that to be loyal to the experience and wisdom and reason. It's just you can get into a lot of subcategories here, but the movie and the good parts of that movie do not happen without him at all.
Right.
And he was truly effectual, because he ends up, the other kid is the one who is more expendable, but there was the California postman he ends up next to who gets killed. But this is the first time Ford has heard of this guy and heard of this. So something made its way out to a whole other state and started, probably because of his work, Ford's work.
Yep. But
it also needed the postman to help launch it too. So it's kind of like this symbiotic relationship, if you want to go that route. The best analogy to this, you ready? I'm just going to completely destroy this whole movie.
Love bad analogies. Let's go.
It's Harry Potter.
Okay.
Ready for it? I mean, I think it's obvious who Voldemort is, right? Right. Obviously. Cool.
Yeah, it's the woman. Yeah. Got it.
Join me or die. Yeah, obviously. It's obviously. Yeah, good talk.
Yeah.
It's the local sheriff, clearly. The postman is Harry Potter, who ends up taking on, fighting, destroying the bad guy. He's really the only one with both the experience and in a way, the balls and the ability to do it. But Ford is Neville. Neville builds Dumbledore's army while Harry is out in the wilderness and still trying to figure out what the hell he's going to do about Voldemort. And when the time comes to fight, who's the first one at the front, challenging him and standing up even when they think Harry's dead? It's Neville. So Ford is kind of like that. He is the one who carried on the work even when they weren't even sure where he was or what he was doing. So if you want a more modern analogy to this, there's a lot of parallels.
It's not
with
bad
the Harry
enough.
Potter reference.
I like more badder analogies. The more batterist. I'm kidding. Please don't do it.
No, it's. I mean, honestly, let's go with Blade Runner. Let's just do it.
I think of him as the Loki figure. I do. He's the catalyst where nothing happens if he's not there. It doesn't mean that he's doing things right or he's doing things necessarily for the best reasons.
Are you talking about Ford Lincoln Mercury?
Yes. Yes.
No.
Nothing gets done if he's not there pushing
Don't you
action.
dare insult him.
I'm not insulting him. Loki is the most important character in all of Norse mythology.
That is a very special, good-hearted character who is not looking for destruction. He is looking for order. He's taking his
fight.
He is not looking to pick a fight. He's willing to pick a fight, and in fact, it's a little bit to his fault, but he is not looking to pick a fight. He is actually looking to create order out of the chaos. He is definitely not Loki.
That's what Loki does.
Loki does not do that. Loki is the one he does not create order out of the chaos.
Every significant event in Norse mythology that leads to progression starts because Loki does something that catalyzes it.
Yeah, but Loki is not trying to necessarily create the order. Loki is trying to... Boy, we're splitting hairs here. In my mind, Loki is trying to rule the chaos.
He's not trying to rule the chaos in Norse mythology. He's just trying to chafe things and change things and make them different. And he doesn't care about what the result ultimately is, but he's trying to change things and make things differently.
I think Ford is the one that says this is more important than any one of us, and that can be brought to a fault. I think that's the only issue, is that he just doesn't know when to stop, but he's a good character. He is not a Loki.
No, he means well, but he's self-destructive like Loki. And he's willing to do it at any cost, like Loki.
And he has hair like Loki, I assume, if we're just going to draw all the parallels.
No, I mean...
He's nothing like Loki.
I just explained a couple of ways he's very much like Loki.
Like two. Like, he's... Like, we call him a he like Loki. And he has a face like Loki.
He's self-destructive in his actions to bring change. When they lit the flag on fire, they had to physically restrain him from going outside and saying, yeah, it was me. What are you going to do about it? Like, the sheriff had to physically knock him out and drag him out the back door to stop him from committing suicide to stand for his ideals. That was a very self-destructive thing he was going to do. Instead of doing something to preserve the whole post office, the sheriff kept the story going by dragging him outside unconscious and stopping him from confronting him. So very self-destructive in his ideals. Antagonistic in provoking the fight. He literally brought the bodies to the camp, lit them on fire, and drove them in with an antagonistic note. After all he had to do was bury them somewhere, and there would not have had to have been a fight.
Slight disagree on that. He's not provoking, he's escalating.
Sure. Agreed. He's escalating.
Okay, I win.
You win. Yep. You
we should just stop right now and not talk about this anymore.
All of the significant changes in that movie, they don't happen because of the Postman. They happen because of Ford Lincoln Mercury.
He is the android prostitute, and Kevin Costner is Harrison Ford, and Bill is the rundown society that we're all eating.
We're gonna have some talks about Loki next time.
I don't know if I can do that. I really need to catch up on my Loki though, because I will
share an Audible version of the Poetic Edda with you. I'm sure I've got it on my Audible, and you can just listen and be all caught up.
No, what we need to talk about next time is that Terrence Howard video you sent me. You sick bastard. That was a waste of my time. I hate you for that. That is the kind of thing. Oh yeah, just engage with this, Doug. Oh yeah, I'm gonna prey upon. I just
wanted your reaction.
I'm gonna prey upon your loving and tender feelings for me, and I'm just gonna completely abuse that and make you watch this shit that pisses you off.
Yep. You're welcome. You're welcome.
Whoever's left listening to us right now after Alabama IVF and What is a Woman and all that stuff, Tom is an asshole.
A woman versus or a man versus
he sends me this stupid. We are gonna talk about this next time. He sends me the stupid video and he says, "Hey, Douglas, who I love so tenderly and who is my man bro and who we are in this fight together and I'm just gonna prey upon every single little like connection that we have together." When you have 26 plus minutes to engage with this, which means it's like 11:30 at night because everyone else is asleep, and I also apparently am avoiding work at this point. Now I'm going to watch 26 minutes of video, and it's Terrence Howard talking about whatever the fuck. And I could
He's
go
talking about
way
important
longer.
things like 1 times 0 is equal to 1.
This is the problem, though. If this is total cult shit, we need to stop and save this for another episode. It is the classic. He says 3 true things and 5 not true things, but he's strong enough and confident enough that people buy it. Pisses me off.
This is the reaction I wanted. Yes, this is next week's topic. We're done. We got this.
You and your fucking fedora. French. It's a French thing. Little fedora. Oh, wee. Talk about.
I love it. It only took me 2 hours to get that reaction out of you. I'm so happy.
No, it's not. See, it only took about 2 seconds. I just had to remember it.
All right, we'll talk about Terrence Howard next week then.
Please, editor, we're sorry. Remember your homework.
Yes, remember your homework.
Just hit the stars. Just hit the stars. Preferably higher than 2. That's all we ask. You don't need to type anything. No typey. It's fine. We just want the stars. That should help us. Thank you very much for listening. Felicia's talk nice about us to your neighbors. But also, if you're so inclined, talk nice to us about your neighbors, because I'm sure they're very fine people who would not punch 13-year-olds in the face.
Would I want to meet them in the woods, though?
I'm done. I just need to fucking
This is why we don't record after 11:30.
It's just like Iron Man suits and shit.
I'm waking up for work in 4 hours. What are you doing?
Raging.
Awesome. Thank you guys for listening. We love you. We appreciate you. Do your dad homework. And thanks for listening. This is episode, 29 now?
I don't know. We love you. Good night.
We love you. Good night. Thanks for listening.